Bjorn Grimsson, 7th Lord of the Godtier, a true Viking, and one of the highlight characters of Season 2. 16 episodes is all it took for his presence to be known and understood in the story. Hey guys, it's Jay, here with another Ordeal video. Today, not only did I want to explain who Bjorn is, but I also want to try to answer the question of why Bjorn was so important. If you enjoy the video, leave a like and share with others. Without further ado, to the vid. Bjorn is ranked 7th in the God tier, making him the 7th strongest Kimyo in the world, and is initially introduced to us at the end of episode 75, and in the following episode we see him interact with a few of the Wolfpack members, alongside Private Brandon. This interaction is to brief him on the reason why Minister Pedersen was attacked. Minister Pedersen, alongside Bjorn and two heads of codes, are the only people in the world who know of the life and death box's location. God tiers are all placed strategically around the world and are given assignments. Bjorn specifically is to protect the life and death boxes, which are located on Mount Jotun in Greenland. This is where Bjorn lives with his hand, Bonnie Tobiasen. Bonnie is like a mother figure to Bjorn, as she mentions this to Shay. To go over her talent briefly, Bifrost is a talent attached to an ancient spear named Hein. It connects to the first Kimyo who wields it, converting their talent to that of the Bifrost. This replaces the wielder's original talent. With Bifrost, Bonnie can create portals. Now let's get an understanding of Bjorn's strength by looking at his talent. Bjorn's talent is known as Berserker's Immortal Hide, and it does almost exactly what the name implies. It is an ancient hide talent that when he dons covers him in the blue skin of the Jotun. Outside of having a hide's natural durability increase, this hide specifically prevents all fatal injury from occurring. We see this multiple times in his fight with Vaal, as he is punctured in different areas but no blood appears, and he shrugs off the attacks. With his hide, he can form it off of himself as an autonomous entity. This is very common for him to do, and he can change the size of it, as we see the hide being as tall as trees in the surrounding area. He can also form the hide on other people, and it shares the exact same properties as if it were formed on himself, as seen when he protects the army from Vaal's Blood Moon attack. Although this is something that all hide users can eventually do, this is a great feat for him, as he not only is able to extend the hide a great distance from where he actually is, but he's able to cover each and every individual that makes up the army he is trying to protect. Bjorn's talent also possesses an innate weapon known as Mishelgar, the God Hammer. The chi of the hammer is too unstable to wield, so the hammer itself created the immortal hide as a glove to protect the bear from its instability. This is Bjorn's true talent. It's a power type, making the entirety of it a dual type talent. When summoned and used, the hammer emits lightning, and with it, Bjorn was able to burn out Vaal's blood sacrifice technique. He also carries with him a talent weapon known as the Norse talent weapon Vinter, the Hoarfrost axe. These axes produce such an excessive amount of frost that only the immortal hide and the bearer of the Ilios talent can wield it. Bjorn also has an amazing sense of smell, allowing him to smell the difference between humans and Kimyos, as well as what talent type a Kimyo can fall under. I know that has nothing to do with his talent, but it's important to mention. Now let's go over the things that will answer the originally posed question, and we'll first look at Bjorn's training of Shay Hart. At the end of the brief meeting, Bjorn tells everyone that he'll be keeping Shay, as the new Ilios vessel needs to amp up his game. And although Bonnie reminds him God tier are forbidden from taking disciples, he responds with God tiers can make snap decisions in regards to the safety of mankind, and believes Shay can save many lives, so he will be his master. In the month-long training session, Bjorn helps Shay develop 3 things: his body, control of his flames, and a new technique. First, Bjorn has a sparring session with Shay to gauge his strength. He defeats him with overwhelming might, countering all of his moves and following up with strikes that have enough force to break his bones. From this, he surmises that Shay fights recklessly, as though his life means nothing. To fix this, he tells Shay they are not immortal and that he must value his body, so he will break it for a week straight until he is no longer brittle, only allowing Shay to enter Ilios state to heal his wounds. We get to see for a brief moment Bjorn training Shay, with kata forms furthering his martial art capabilities, and we see him bolstering Shay's physical strength by making him carry a large stack of logs and having him wrestle the manifested immortal hide. This stronger physique also helps Shay maintain a better control of his flames, as Bjorn then instructs Shay that he needs to become accustomed to maintaining a lesser form of his state, and if successful, he can stay warm without harming others, as the heat will be internal. This is why most times during the training, Shay has on less clothing, as the immense cold no longer affects him. He also helps Shay develop control over the blue flames, as we see Shay ignite a piece of paper with the paper not being burned at all. This leads to Shay's eventual change of the nature of the blue flames, as they now cause no harm to allies and other things Shay doesn't want burned. And lastly, Bjorn tells Shay he needs a new attack, something that will allow him to be on the offensive while protecting himself. himself. This instruction leads Shay to develop Tomas. Bjorn says the first version takes too long to build up and is too big, making it impractical, and says Shay needs to condense it. Shay then surrounds it in a layer of chi and reduces its size, giving us Tomas's second form. On day 12 of training, Shay shows Bjorn Tomas's power, with it making a large smoke cloud, but expresses a desire to make it smaller for even greater control. This idea excites him and says they will continue this phase of training. Fast forwarding to day 20, and Bjorn checks in on Shay, telling him not to overexert himself and that Tomas is a decent size and he should feel proud. Shay, without saying anything, shows him that he accomplished his desired goal, as Tomas is the size of a golf ball. At the end of the training session, Bjorn has Shay fight the immortal Hyde, set with the intent to kill, saying he has nothing left to teach him and that anything he has left to unlock must be done in combat. He also says he cannot call himself a bearer of the Great Four if he cannot harness its power to the fullest. In their initial bout, they seem to be a bit equal, even though Shay can't actually damage the Hyde. He then sees the Hyde is about to use the same move Bjorn used on him and follows up with the same attack as well. Bjorn still sees that Shay is holding back, so he gives the immortal Hyde Vinter. He says that these were given to him by Leo Thomas when his goal was to enter the Godtier. He lacked the strength to proceed further, but with these axes he was able to push his talent past its limits, unlocking more of its potential. As a debt to Leo, Bjorn must push Shay and ask him if he will continue to hold back, even when faced with death, asking if he's afraid to tap into the endless power he possesses, even at a time like this. Further storing him on by telling him the death of his wolf pack awaits, and he's afraid to become lost in the power he was given. Will he offer less to those that need all? In light of them taking their last breath, will he not give everything? They need all he has to offer. Withhold nothing. Give everything, Shay Hart. With those final words being the catalyst that allows Shay to enter his own mindscape and meet Ilios for the first time. Ilios introduces himself as Mahalalel, making sure to tell Shay he is no god, but that he was sent by him and that he is Shay's servant. Mahalalel tells Shay May's decision to remove the Thanatos talent changed the course of human history, and since he possesses the body of Thanatos with Ilios as his talent, Shay's limits surpassed that of Ilios when he was alive. Mahalalel then gives Shay the shield as a sign of him now having access to all of his power. This interaction is what allows Shay to completely decimate the immortal Hyde, as said by Bjorn, completing his training. In Bjorn's fight against Vaal, we get to see his talent's full capacity and why he has the title of Godtier. This will also help answer the aforementioned question. Initially, Bjorn saves Shay from Vaal's attempts to cut him in half, using Vinter as a means of quickly stunning him in the Dothanil summon. He then recalls Vinter and bursts ice from his blades, telling Shay to get Tevin to safety. The Dothanil summon bursts from the ice, and Bjorn, while still having his focus on Vaal, blocks the incoming attack and shows his raw physical might by sending the summon away with a kick. On Shay's return, he informs his master that he believes that he understands an aspect of Vaal's talent, that being the part that allows him to absorb chi. And after this, to Shay's shock, Bjorn tells him to leave as he is not ready for this fight. He has exerted every ounce of power he possesses, yet Vaal hasn't even begun to challenge him. What is 600 years of Kimyo experience against 3? He tells Shay that he has left Code's forces unattended and that he must take his place in defending them, and he does not take no for an answer, activating his talent in the process. Bjorn wastes no time in showing us why he is in the Godtier, as he is able to deal with Vaal and his summon simultaneously. After Vaal calls for Dothanil to impale, Bjorn uses Valkyrie's pillar to shroud himself in a column of ice. And after he breaks out, Vaal closes the gap to prepare a strike. Bjorn stops the strike with sheer muscle and counters with Vinter, successfully striking Vaal and drawing blood from him. You can say the strike activates Vaal, as blood now covers his arm and a tendril flows out of him. He then summons a massive blood spike that Bjorn simply counters with Vinter. The summon then creates massive tendrils that surround Bjorn, though this doesn't faze him as he severs one of the heads. However, the severed tendril spawns and shoots spikes that puncture through Bjorn, but he simply breaks them and follows up with Ragnar's Cleave, sending a slash of ice in Vaal's direction. Vaal then counters this by absorbing the attack. Bjorn closes the distance and slashes at the spikes in his path. He then sends another wave of ice at Vaal that he dodges. This initially confuses Bjorn, but he then figures out what Vaal does with the chi he absorbs from attacks. Vaal uses the chi to help create his massive summons, which is why Bjorn can smell the chi of Ilios in the Dothanil summon and Vinter's chi in his more recent attacks. But he has to absorb in intervals, hence why he dodged Bjorn's last attack. Bjorn also notes that Vaal hasn't even been paying attention to him, as his talent has been protecting him passively, similar to Anu Ankh and Hisame, also saying he has lost his focus since Bjorn has injured him, as he has not been wounded since his Sabito incident. Bjorn then goes for the Dothanil summon as he is the center of Vaal's grand attacks, leaping into the air and then coming down, cleaving it in two. This makes Vaal come out of his daze, and as Bjorn throws Vinter at him, trying to seize this opening, Vaal not only catches Vinter, but breaks it as well. Vaal then summons the Blood Moon. As he bears witness to the blood moon, Bjorn contacts Bonnie, asking her if Code has granted his request, to which she replies with a saddened yes, saying Code has permitted the activation of his true talent. This is when Bjorn begins monologuing to Vaal, saying Vaal may know of the immortal hide and its attributes, but did he think that was all of it? Asking him if he is aware that the immortal hide conceals what he truly bears, and that none of his predecessors had cause to use it, so his true talent has never been seen before even by him. As Bjorn continues, lightning sprouts from his hand and cracks in the sky, eventually shooting down behind him. Bjorn then grabs the lightning that was in his hand and hoists it up, saying, "Come down from your abode and smite the earth, Mishelgar," which means God's hammer. As he ascends into the air with the giant hammer held by two arms behind him, Vaal says Bjorn has two paths laid before him. 1. Use his last attack to strike him down and allow the moon to eliminate the humans under his protection. And 2. Destroy the moon and run out of chi, leaving him and them defenseless, adding that there is no victory for him today, only death, and that he can feel his chi diminishing, so his next attack will be his last. And once he has no chi, the hammer will kill him before he does. Bjorn simply smirks and flashes back to a conversation he had with Shay. Shay asks him where chi comes from, and Bjorn says it may flow from their souls, as souls come from God, and he allows Kimios to access the power that emanates off of them, and if they use too much, they die. Shay says Bjorn sounds like Leo, and asks if he's a believer, to which Bjorn responds that he is, and that Leo is the one who introduced him to the Gospels, and that he hopes he is allowed into heaven to see his face once more. Back in the present, Bjorn grabs Vinter and whispers something in Nordic before tossing it to the ground. He then releases his hide, to which Vaal calls him an idiot, as the chi omitted from the hammer is greatly unstable, and without his hide he will surely die. Bjorn says Vaal gave him two options, but a third just came to him. Instinctually, Vaal knows what's about to happen and tells Zoltanil to fire. As the blood moon prepares its spikes and begins to rain down on Shay and the troops around him, the blue skin from the immortal hide suddenly covers them, and the spikes eventually make contact with their targets. Back to Bjorn and Vaal, the latter says Bjorn has outsmarted him and that he never imagined he could stretch his hide that far, adding that he has single-handedly restored his respect for those in the rank of Godtier. And as he calls for his next attack, he asks Bjorn if he considers this a victory, exchanging his life for others. Bjorn responds by saying, "As long as he bears the title of Seventh Lord, be sure that this truth remains. None who stand under his mountain will die. Vaal's casualties may mean nothing to him, but if those under him retain their lives, he has won." And as Bjorn's final attack inches closer to Vaal, he calls for the blood sacrifice technique, with the attack causing a large explosion in a bolt of lightning that reaches past the Earth's atmosphere. In the aftermath of the attack, we see Bjorn on the ground without his arms, and an old and decrepit Vaal. Kagi arrives to retrieve his master, and almost as soon as they disappear, Shay arrives to be at his master's side. Bjorn tells Shay that Vaal is now weak, as the only technique that could save his life has been exhausted, and that he must defeat him in his lifetime. Shay says that he feels no chi from his master, and Bjorn says that that would explain why he is seeing Leo, and as he takes his last breath, he calls out the name of Jesus. As Bjorn passes, Vinter flings at Shay and shows him its memory. Bjorn said to Vinter, "I charge thee to serve the one called Shay. Stand by him until the day of his death," making Vinter Bjorn's gift to Shay and a new weapon in his arsenal. If you're wondering why Bjorn is so important, it's because he protects the life and death boxes, the most important artifacts in the story, because he trained Shay hard, helping him cultivate his potential to not be just the strongest Ilios vessel, but the strongest Kimio to exist, saying that he will surpass the Godtier sooner than he knows, along with granting him a powerful talent weapon before his passing. And because he defeated the greatest threat to human and Kimio existence, Vaal Bejizatha, being one of two people to burn out the blood sacrifice technique, leaving him the weakest state possible. And that is why Bjorn Grimsson is one of the most important characters in the Ordeal story. If you feel like I missed any important details or have any questions, leave them in the comments, and let me know if Bjorn is in your list of favorite characters, or if you would endure Bjorn's training if given the chance.